Hey, this is Alexander Creek, astrologer and intuitive. Welcome back. Special hello if you're listening to the audio version to the stars. Otherwise, welcome back to my YouTube channel. We're going to be talking about the astrology of just some highlights going into leaving July 2024 and going into August. We have a series of dynamic, challenging energies in August. It's a little tricky because we have a square between Mars, the planet of action and energy in Gemini, with Saturn, the planet of delays and structure and lessons and all those kinds of fun Saturn things. And to top it all off, we have a Mercury retrograde. However, before I scare you with oh, there's a Mercury retrograde, throw everything on fire and leave the country, I can't do this anymore. I don't know what that expression was, but anyway, this Mercury retrograde doesn't look too bad, to be honest with you. It looks pretty chill. I'm going to talk to you about why that is. So let's go ahead and start talking about some of these highlights coming up. And we're going to focus on Mars and Gemini and Mercury retrograde. Okay, so let's actually start off by talking about Mercury retrograde first, and then we'll talk about Mars and Gemini. Even though Mars has already been in Gemini for a few days, I want to talk about Mercury retrograde first because, frankly, there's less to talk about, and there's a little bit more to discuss when it comes to Mars and Gemini. So first of all, Mercury retrograde, the exact dates are going to be August 5th through August 28th. That is the time that it's actually stationed retrograde in the sky. One thing to note with those station dates, so a day or two around the 5th and a day or two around the 28th is when Mercury tends to be at its most unstable. So when it is changing directions in the sky, it's really slows down. It's sort of if you imagine a car going really fast and having to slow down and then slowly back up, it's the slowing down and slowly backing up or slowly, going forward that we tend to have some of those more, classically tricky, retrograde Mercury things, right? So those would be some dates to keep an eye on to notice a shift in direction, and also just when Mercury tends to be a little shaky, essentially. The reason why I don't really think this Mercury retrograde is necessarily a huge deal or something to freak out about is mainly because Mercury is going to be in Virgo. Mercury went into Virgo a few days ago. It is now July 27th, so it's already currently in Virgo. It's actually going to retrograde back into Leo as well. But while it is in Virgo, Mercury has a tremendous amount of strength. Mercury is the planet of communication and messages and data and systems and, how all these systems are connected in transportation, rules over technology, right? So that's why anytime we have Mercury retrograde, I double check my flights, I double check my email, make sure my emails went through and all of those kinds of things, because Mercury is about dotting every I and crossing every T. So because Mercury actually rules over Virgo, Mercury is very at home in the sign of Virgo, because Virgo tends to excel in analyzing and editing and, of course, all these different themes of working and being of service. But Mercury really does what Mercury does best in the sign of Virgo. It is also considered to be, in astrology, Mercury is considered to be in its exaltation when it is in Virgo as well, meaning Mercury is raised up to this very this sort of celebrated position in Virgo. It's not only at home in Virgo, but it's celebrated sort of in Virgo. So meaning that a pesky little retrograde, while a retrograde planet can certainly kind of slow things down, certainly I would expect communication might be a little bit delayed, or there might be some hiccups as far as communications and systems and technology. I do feel like those things may be more minimal or may not be that big a deal while Mercury is retrograde in Virgo. It's definitely going to give you a lot of opportunities too, because Mercury in Virgo is very good at organizing. It's very good at analyzing things. It's very good at looking at these picky little details. So you will notice probably in one or more areas of life that you are naturally going to be reviewing, reassessing things, going back through old files, making sure, like, wow, I haven't really organized this in a while. I like, let me go through that. Or something may call your attention to going back and looking over something. And this may actually be a really beneficial thing. In Mercury retrograde as well, while there is, a theme of slowing down somewhat, this Mercury retrograde actually feels very mentally stimulating also. And that is because, okay, so this is a really interesting retrograde, that mentally stimulating energy I was talking about, really because of Mercury's square with Uranus and its cazimi with the sun. So let's discuss, what the hell am I talking about? What does that mean? I also want to mention too, August 8th, before I even get into that, there's a conjunction of Mercury with Venus, the planet of pleasure, connection, and sweetness. So that's a good date, actually, like around that date, if you need to communicate with someone, have like and smooth things over, if you need to be a little charming, if you need a communication or message to go really well. It's like creativity and communication and harmony are kind of really in flow with that energy. So let's talk about the kind of exciting stuff about this retrograde. So first of all, Mercury goes into Leo August 15th. That is an energy shift for sure. It gets out of that, it leaves super strong, dignified Virgo and goes back into Leo. So there is a shift in energy right there. And then once we kind of get to August 18th, Mercury will square up with Uranus. And August 18th, or around August 18th, is a really interesting energy because, first of all, Mercury square Uranus is kind of giving shocking upsets, or excuse me, shocking news or sudden developments or something that we didn't see coming. So on a mundane level, it's like Uranus is the planet of electricity and sudden breakthroughs. And I kind of tend to think of Uranus as these sort of lightning bolt moments. So our minds may be very stimulated around that day. We might be feeling really inventive, have creative solutions for things, have kind of lightning bolt, downloads kind of come in from nowhere. On the other hand, it's like I would maybe prepare for surprises or things not going as planned, having to make adjustments essentially. This can also be just like the speed of our thoughts may be really sped up at this time because Mars is the planet of action and heat. It's in Gemini, the planet of communication, ruled by Mercury. We already have a lot of like really fast energy kind of going on with that. And then when Mercury makes contact with Uranus, it's sort of like Mercury is sticking a fork in an electric socket. So, I would think like rash, impulsive thoughts. Like I'm going to do this and then this and then this, and this can certainly help us help us with breakthroughs. Again, like I mentioned, creative problem solving or creative breakthroughs. But the flow of mental energy is just extremely fast. And also on a global level, we have a certain presidential candidate in the Republican Party who has this energy, who has this the degree of 26 degrees of Leo pretty prominently in his chart, which is around where this aspect is happening. So he actually has his ascendant in Leo and then Mars at 26 of Leo, I believe. So I'm wondering if there's maybe some sudden news coming out about him. We had a Mars Uranus conjunction in Taurus at 26 at 26 Taurus, which is the same degree of the fixed signs when there was that attempted assassination. So I'm wondering if there's news around that, or he's making an announcement or a sudden pivot or something. It also could be news connected to another global leader as well, as Leo is the sign of the king. So, and I would just pay attention to headlines. I'm thinking it's going to be an interesting day. There could be interruptions as far as technology is concerned. It's like you just want to think interruptions, sudden things happening, especially with communication of leaders. But it should make for an interesting energy. Now, again, going back to a personal level, Mercury, that same day it's squaring Uranus, is also in cazimi with the sun. And cazimi in traditional astrology describes when a planet is sort of observed to be in the heart of the sun, like really kind of exactly like within that degree, like within a few minutes, it's sort of cleansed and purified and given like new instructions, because the sun in astrology is also like it's kind of about like higher consciousness and divinity, and the sun is like the king of the solar system. So it's sort of like Mercury is receiving new instructions. So there is, so to put that in English, again, there is this feeling of like maybe because a Kazemi always happens during a Mercury retrograde cycle, and this would be a time where you might get sudden clarity on something, like really kind of getting these sort of downloads from the universe. So this would be a time that keep a journal on you, or just write something down in your notes app on your phone if you have something kind of come in. Again, it's just, there's a lot of, Mercury is really, really interesting. So I would pay attention to the news that day. I would slow your energy down if possible, but you're probably going to be getting, insights kind of left and right. And again, there is that feeling of maybe some sudden clarity coming in with that Kazemi, or like a solution to something that you've wanted, or insight that is really connected to this Mercury in retrograde journey. So keep that date range. I'm going to say August 7th through August 19th, but August 18th officially is kind of when we're going to be expecting some sudden kind of crazy energy that day. It should be interesting to watch for sure. Okay, so let's talk about Mars and Gemini. I'm also going to talk about where Mars is in your where Mars is transiting your natal chart. So where Mars is moving through your chart, how it impacts you astrologically toward the end of this segment. So Mars is a planet of action, of energy, of conflict, of war. It's the red planet. It's about passion, and can really kind of rule, frankly, kind of our energy levels and vitality as well, right? So Mars kind of left. Mars in Taurus on July 20th, and it's going to be there until September 5th. So you may want to notice, like, hey, has your energy shifted a little bit, particularly if you have a lot of Aries or Scorpio? You are ruled by the planet Mars, so you are more sensitive to its change of sign and its various aspects it is making in the sky. I myself in Scorpio rising, I can always feel when Mars is changing signs. Frankly, during Mars in Taurus, Mars in Taurus is a very kind of routine rhythm sort of oriented Mars, but it's not necessarily about like breaking new goals in the gym and like really like, Mars and Taurus really works hard. But I noticed during my Mars and Taurus kind of cycles, like when I was in the gym, I was more about maintenance. I was like, let's just go and take care of ourselves. I'm not really interested in like hitting new benchmarks necessarily. But now that Mars is kind of in Gemini, and because frankly, Mars and Taurus is technically not at its best, because Mars wants to fire and like make war and like let's go, and Taurus is like, we're going to do that but at our own pace. So Mars kind of comes into a little bit more strength going into Gemini. So really one of the biggest things that you need to know about Mars and Gemini is one of Mars's principal functions in astrology is to sever, to separate, to aggravate, to inflame, and it also stimulates and energizes, right? So and Gemini is about our words and communication and our messages, our thoughts. Also, Gemini rules anything from the shoulders and below to like shoulders, like the hands and arms. So let's say that you're Gemini rising, or really just in general, like I would just be careful of like cutting things and like having like knives near your hands, because you're more likely to be cut, right, by like sharp things, right? So little silly little pointer, but it's just interesting to see how that kind of manifests. The reason why I said Gemini rising is because Gemini is your first house of bodies. So that's just something to be careful if you like work in kitchens or something. But this is also the first time Actually, let me go back for a second. So, Mars in Gemini is really like words as weapons. If you have noticed since July 20th, maybe your thoughts are a little quicker, maybe your mouth is a little mouthier, like, there's, all of a sudden you've like transformed this fork-dunged devil child or something. I actually was staying with family recently for a wedding, and it was after Mars had gone into Gemini. And frankly, I was a little, I just was testy. I was like, before I could even think about it, I just was snarky remark came out of my mouth, and someone asked me like, "Oh, is there any good Mexican around here? Like a Mexican restaurant?" And I'd never been in this town, and the first thing out of my mouth was like, "Yeah, if you go into Google Maps and put Mexican restaurant right in the search, I'm sure it's going to pop up for you." And like, I could not help myself. So, just sassier than I already am, and to the point where I was like, I feel like such a jerk. I cannot stop being, and I'm not saying, give astrology, like make that your excuse for being mean to your family during Mars in Gemini. But with Mars in Gemini, there is, you may notice in like online discourse or, commenting on forums and websites and stuff, people are just going to be a little bit more combative with their words. And that is something to really keep an eye out for during Mars in Gemini. Because words become weapons when Mars is in Gemini, right? So, and also this can be, some of the positives is that Mars is in the realm of Mercury right now. So it is going to be curious. It's seeking new information. It's seeking like quick solutions to things. And it's really going to speed up the mind, because Mars energizes. Mercury is like the realm of the mind and communication. And so this is going to kind of speed those things up. So the positives is that this Mars may sort of help us explore new territory or take action, where Jupiter in Gemini is also transiting in our chart. So this is interesting because Jupiter, the planet of expansion, of wisdom, and opportunity, is in the sign of Gemini and has been since mid-May 2024 and will be until June of next year. So it's spending about a year in a single house or life area in your birth chart. So now, because Mars is there might be some of that promise of what Jupiter is doing kind of coming out, or more action considering where Jupiter is concerned. And I'll speak on the different life areas at the end of this little segment here. But for me personally, I'm Scorpio rising. Gemini is my 8th house in my birth chart. And the 8th house does talk about finances. It talks about loans and debts and investments, inheritances. So what I'm noticing, a little thing that happened with me when Mars went into Gemini is there was a full moon that landed in my 3rd house of transportation, and that day the wheel on my little car came like undone. It's sort of dangling there like a little dislocated limb because the ball joint fell out. And this is on the day of the full moon of Capricorn. And Mars, 20 minutes after that happened, had just moved into my 8th house. And I remember looking at this a month ago and thinking, I hope something doesn't happen to my car, right? So I ended up looking at about 1,000 in damages to my car that I had to repair. So that's Mars in the 8th house, like a really kind of extreme example of aggravating, energizing financial stuff, However, Jupiter's there, and Jupiter offers protection and it offers expansion. And I have been wanting to reconsolidate some credit card debt for, frankly, a very long time. And I actually had a loved one offer during this whole experience. They said they're going to frankly help me pay for the damages to my vehicle, and they were also going to help me reconsolidate all that debt. So while I do have to pay for the car, at the same time, I get to sort of pay all my credit card debt off interest free. And that is Jupiter being, so it's like a little bit of something super aggravating and something kind of annoying. But at the same time, with Jupiter there is this helpful energy and kind of bringing through this like, hey, it's all going to be fine. It's actually working out even better than you thought. So I just wanted to tell that story because that was on my mind. So So this can help to activate sort of Jupiter within that house it is in, and frankly, this is going to energize your mind, and because Jupiter and Gemini is very curious about exploring new horizons. It's like Mars is like, let's go, let's start to take action here. So, and there's frankly a lot of courage and bravery when Mars and Jupiter are occupying the same space, when they're especially when they get closer to an actual conjunction, because Mars and Jupiter together can symbolize. So Mars and Jupiter can symbolize victory or success in that part of your chart, right? So there are some, however, challenges to Mars and Gemini. And I also wanted to kind of bring your attention before I forget and before I go any further, is this is the first time that Mars has been in Gemini since it was. This is the first time it's been in Gemini since it was in Gemini when it was retrograde. So we had this kind of notorious Mars retrograde in the sign of Gemini from October to December 2022. So this does feel like a very different story, where that may have been more, I feel like I'm still bearing scars from that particular retrograde period, because it was, again, retrograde in my financial sector, and I had some really financial challenges, frankly, at that point in time. However, the story feels very different, although there are definitely some challenges with Mars being in Gemini this time due to Saturn. But different story, but you may want to take note of, hey, what was going on during October through December 2022? And I don't mean to, and if that was a challenging time for you, I don't want to scare you and say it's going to be the same thing, but there may be some different there may be some similar life areas or some different themes that might be coming up with Mars and Gemini this time. So let's talk about some of the challenges that are coming up. So, and then here's just something to be mindful of. Gemini is a mutable air sign, and with Mars, that means here, there, everywhere. We are just 1,000 different places all at once, right? So, with Mars here, the part of your chart that I'm going to talk about when I talk about where Mars is, this part of your chart could be a little scattered. So just be cautious. And remember, just be mindful to focus your energy and be pragmatic, because Gemini is like, let's just do it. And it can, again, be very active, very busy, but very scattered. So just remember to focus your energy and be mindful and pragmatic. So the negative that I was speaking of before is, again, this energy is very verbally and communicatively combative. This can actually be a good thing if you need to stand up for yourself, frankly. But sometimes it's like, I would just think about, be mindful before you speak, before you open your mouth, because this Mars and Gemini transit can just be a little, I just, if you have a propensity for being, verbally combative, you're going to be a little bit more so. So I would just be cautious of it. And also just kind of racing thoughts too. I would be cautious of using stimulants like coffee or anything that sort of stimulates the mind, like caffeine, really, because it just tends to have a supercharged effect when Mars is in Gemini, because Mars does rule kind of stimulants. So I would just be careful that it doesn't, because this can kind of dysregulate your nervous system. The other really big thing is there are some, particularly around the dates of August 14th and August 16th, there's some interesting aspects to look out for. One thing to pay attention the whole time that Mars is in Gemini, and again, that is July 20th through September 5th, is that it is going to be forming a square to Saturn. So Mars wants to go, it wants to charge forward, it wants things now, right? And it is basically running into a hard roadblock from Saturn. Saturn is sort of saying, but how are you going to do this effectively? Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Or it can just be about dealing with some delays and limitations from Saturn. And you may want to know where Saturn is in your birth chart. I'm not going to go over where Saturn is for all of you in this video. You might want to just kind of like look that up, or look at some of my previous videos and podcast episodes about Saturn in Pisces. If you want to do that, I would look at the new moon in Pisces episode. That'll tell you about Saturn and kind of where it is in your transiting through your birth chart right now. But August 16th is going to be the peak of this energy. So, this can frankly be a frustrating kind of roadblock kind of feeling. I'm not going to lie. Like there is going to be maybe a little impatience or just feeling like, God damn it. Like I just really want to move forward, but something is in my way, or I have to consider the details, or it's not moving as fast as I would want. Right. However, 2 days before that, we have a conjunction of that exact conjunction of Mars and Jupiter. So there is like this bravery, courage, success kind of feeling. And I'm going to say if you're very determined, you have to be very determined during this period of time and be really thoughtful about how you are taking action, especially concerning the house that Mars is in for you, again, that I'm going to discuss at the end. So it's sort of like this balance of, one step forward, another step back, and then we take 2 steps forward, and then we take 1 step back. But ultimately, we are getting there. And frankly, this energy can, if you need to tackle something that you just like, I'm like, oh my God, I need to like look at tax forms from like 3 years ago and I've been procrastinating on this. This might be the energy to be like, let's just get it done. Get it done. Do the thing that's hard because you're going to have the courage to do so, even though it's going to be a little aggravating and a little annoying. Right. So I would keep those themes in your mind the entire time that Mars is in Gemini, because they will be active. It's just going to, it's going to be the most active from August 14th through August 16th, during that courage, that bravery, that success, but also the roadblocks and the frustration is definitely going to be there as well. So let's talk about where Mars and Gemini is transiting in your birth chart for each rising sign. Okay, so once again, let's talk about where Mars is going to be transiting through your birth chart. Keep in mind, it's going to be more accurate if you know your rising sign or your ascendant. Both words mean the same thing. If you don't know it, you can calculate it with. You just go online, either astro.com or astro-seek.com or any of these free websites. It'll pretty much pull it up for you. You just need an accurate birth time. If your birth time's a guess, it might be wrong. So just FYI. If you don't know your rising sign, I would listen for your sun or your moon, depending on, if you know you're born sometime during the day, do the sun. If you're born sometime during the night, do the moon, and just see which one resonates for you the most. So Aries rising, Mars is going to be moving through the third. It's going to go retrograde in your third house. So classic communication type things for you. Because the third house has to do with communication. It's a lot of the same thing of what I said before. So spicy communication, words as weapons, stimulates the mind. It can also bring some more activity or some more energizing with immediate environment or like neighbors or siblings, or it can even be conflicts with these. It can be like something new or different or irritating, frankly, about your commute, or it can just be a lot of activity concerning, your daily activities, your daily environment, just kind of how you get around day to day in your correspondence. Or something can come up with vehicles or cars. It doesn't have to be bad, but Mars does energize, it does aggravate. So there's a little something aggravating with this energy, possibly. I'm going to say that there is that Mars Saturn kind of conflict. It is actually going to be in your 12th house. So I know I said earlier, you can go look up where Saturn is. I'm actually just going to tell you. So I'm going to say like some sort of dynamic energy, some maybe challenging energy between your speech, your mind, and also your subconscious mind, because Saturn is in your 12th house, which is subconscious mind and hidden things, like kind of clearing out old stuff in the old programming. So this may be about like, I don't know, clearing out it's like clearing out the karmic closet and something with communication. There's just some sort of pattern kind of happening with you. So I don't exactly know how to make sense of it right now, but those are the 2 life areas. For Taurus, so we have Mars going through your 2nd house. You might really be wanting to like bring in some more income, or like it brings a focus to your finances with Mars and Gemini. It's like, whether it's like bringing in more income or you might just find yourself spending a little bit more, that you have more expenditures or something like that, or there's just some more energy going to budgeting and financing and money, or anything, or any skills, or you might be really working on skills and talents that can help support you monetarily in the future later. there is something, there's Mars and Saturn in your chart are going to be talking about like, there could be something going on with like friends and communities that you belong to and your finances. Like maybe, there's something that you have to pay for when it comes to groups or organizations or friends or communities, or perhaps it's talking about something bigger. It could be talking about, hey, are you focusing on your hopes and wishes and goals for the future, like the things that you're wanting to manifest and how that's actually going to bring you more income? It's like, are you putting the work into those things? It could be something that's sort of coming up for you. For Gemini, rising, Mars is actually in your first house. You could frankly just be a little bit more feisty, a little bit more combative. You might want to burn some energy off or get some exercise. I would be cautious with health things. I would not take risks if you are like the party type and you're like, hey, I'm going to do a bunch of stimulant drugs. That might not be the time to do that because it's just going to make your heart pump faster than usual or make your mind go faster than usual. So I would be cautious around stimulants, cautious around knives and things that cut. Frankly, like, but you just might, Mars going into your sign, it's just going to bring out some more warrior energy from you, which can be a good thing if you need to stand up for yourself. But I would just say, make sure you're not moving around too fast and going too fast because it can be maybe a little accident prone. It's squaring off with Saturn in the 10th. There might just be some challenging dynamic energy with your career. So it could be that you're working very hard on career things and that you're feeling maybe a little burnt out. It could be that, things are not moving fast enough. You want them to move fast in your career because Saturn can be delays, right? It's like work, but delays. So I would just expect some dynamic active energy in career and also with you personally. Remember, there is some more bravery and courage energy with this. But again, I would just expect to have you're going to need some patience. For Cancer rising, Mars is in your 12th house. This is an interesting place. Let me actually, I gotta check my notes on something. Hold on. All right, Cancer. So I had to check my notes because this is the interesting transit for you. So Mars is going into your 12th house. It's a very hidden part of your chart, kind of rules like the subconscious mind. It has to do with like karmic things, like finishing things up from the past sometimes. I'm going to say that you could be feeling a little maybe a negative of this is that you can feel just a little irritable, but you're not really sure where it's coming from because, Mars is the really most active planet is going into like with the most hidden part of your chart. So this can sometimes stir up notice where I would really be mindful of your thoughts. Notice where your thoughts are going and be very neutral and objective with your thoughts because the 12th house can sometimes be how we self-sabotage and we self-undo, essentially, like how we kind of get in our own way sometimes. And notice your thought patterns and because this can really stir up some thought patterns. And just if you start blaming yourself for certain things or start saying really judging yourself, or if you find yourself getting into sort of negative thought patterns, this is time where I would focus, pause, and be like, is that really what I think? Is that me? Or is that just some sort of old programming, essentially? So that's something to kind of keep an eye on during this transit. Also, I would notice as well too, you may also just want to work alone, or that you may want to, it's like, because Mars is activity, action, exercise, a fire energy. You may want to do those things solo, or that you may want to, let's say you're like, I really want to get out and move my body, but I want to go into the mountains and go for a hike by myself. That's kind of this energy. So get out. So I would say get out to nature, because you're going to be able to get out that kind of restless Mars and Gemini energy when you're kind of out in nature, or even just like, I need to be alone to kind of process some stuff. Is kind of what I'm picking up for you. Saturn is in your 9th house right now. It's making a square to Mars in your 12th. Saturn in your. So like I mentioned, Cancer, Saturn's in your 9th house. Since March 2023, you might be really crystallizing your beliefs. You might be working on something higher education related. You might be working on something connected to spirituality, or even there could be stuff connected to travel and other cultures for you. Maybe I would say there could be a myriad of things happening between Mars and Saturn in your chart. I would just kind of take note of those two life areas and how they might be competing. Maybe you're like crystallizing your beliefs and kind of figuring out what you actually, like your belief patterns in your subconscious mind or something. But I would just kind of take note of those two life areas. I'm not exactly sure how to put that into words for you right now, but just take notice during that Saturn square on the 16th of August. So for Leo, Mars and Gemini is going to be in your 11th house. This is a lot of there's a lot of energizing kind of energizing energy. That doesn't make sense, but you know what I'm saying. Mars is going to energize the 11th house of friends, community, or like different organizations that you might belong to, and like casual friends and colleagues. So this is going to stimulate a lot of energy here. This might be a more social time, but at the same time, this is spicy. You may, if you're the type of person, if your friends are sort of talking about someone or something, and you're like, yeah, I'm just going to go along with it because I don't want to rock the boat or whatever, you might be like, actually, stop talking about that person that way, or actually, I don't believe that. And I disagree with you, and I think you're wrong. Like that is a Mars and Gemini kind of experience in the 11th house. Can also be that, in like a more extreme example, could be that you maybe part ways with a friend or part ways with a group that you belong to, or frankly, you might just be getting into it more with people online and just be more combative on like Twitter or Facebook or whatever it is that you use. Also, Leo, there is some kind of conflict or dynamic, challenging energy with this 11th house kind of friends, colleagues, group stuff. Also, possibly Mars and Gemini might be for you about like, hey, what are my goals and wishes and hopes for the future? How do I get to those things? But there's a challenge between this and the 8th house of your chart where Saturn is. Because like you might be feeling a crunch, frankly, with financial things, or you might be really dealing with some like emotional things with Saturn and with Saturn and Pisces, and like processing some deeper emotional things because it's going through your 8th house. So there might be just when that conflict comes up around the 16th, you may take note of like these are like the life areas where it's sort of happening for you, and know that energy does pass as well. For Virgo, we have Mars is going to be in your 10th house. So, it could be some conflict in your career. It could be being snippy with an authority figure. It could be, frankly, that you are stepping up to the plate at work and you're like, get out of my way, we're going to do it. You could just have a spicier tongue kind of in your career or in the workplace, or you could be really focused on moving up in your career and like really be focused. At the same time, that tongue might just be a little sharp, where you have to sort of write some strongly worded emails, something like that. There could be a conflict that comes up between you and partner also, or something about partner and career. Because it's, Mars in your 10th is going to bump up against Saturn in the 7th. It could be, frankly, that you're just needing to work on work relationships, or there's something about relationships and career that are going to be kind of in conflict or like around this time. For Libra, Mars is going to be in your 9th house. So you really could be passionately defending beliefs during Mars and Gemini. This is more like this kind of political debate kind of energy to me. You could also be spending more time, like you might be like, I really want to learn astrology. I really want to learn spirituality. Like this is the time where I really just want to soak up this information. Because the 9th house has to do with higher education, spirituality, travel. So your mind may be really more focused on those things, or you may be wanting to take action on those things. Or there could be conflict within those areas. There may be something that comes up for you, like some sort of delay or heavy commitment, or something where it feels like you have to work hard at something within work right now, or even with physical health. You can be really working on your physical health right now, or kind of feel that like it's taking longer for you to kind of get where you want to go with that energy because of Saturn and Pisces in your 6th, that square between Mars and Saturn that I was talking about earlier. For Scorpio, the Mars is in the 8th, like I talked about before. So it might be a financial thing. It might be like, oh, this might be actually a good time during Mercury retrograde to cut out anything that you don't need to be paying for. Old subscriptions that they charge you every month. Like, why am I still paying for Disney Plus? I don't fucking watch anything on Disney Plus. Something like that, right? So it might be a good time to look at car insurance. Like, can you get a better deal because Mercury's going to be retrograde like during this time as well? So consider that. Kind of sniff out. I'm like, maybe, like do a little reorganizing or snipping out things like financially that you don't need to be paying for that are these like recurring things. Maybe look at you might be a time that you're looking at your estate or your will or your investments. It also could stir up something emotionally too, because the 8th house can be sort of psychological baggage, right? So it could be something related to that. It also could be partners' money. There could just be more spending of partners' money, or perhaps like some sort of aggravation comes up with like a partner's finances, or people who are connected, like people who are intimately connected to you in their finances. So Mars is going to be doing that stuff in your 8th house. There could be some kind of conflict with like some sort of love connection, something with a child, maybe something financially that comes up with a child, or like the decision whether or not to have children can sometimes come up with Saturn in your 5th house right now, or that you are maybe feeling a little creatively stuck or blocked, that you don't have time to play, like not enough time. All right, Sagittarius rising. This is Mars and Gemini is, this planet of action energy. It is going into your 7th house of partnerships. This is other people in your life. You could be really a lot more motivated to be speaking out for your needs, to be asserting yourself in partnership. This is not a harmonious transit. This could be a little bumpy, but nonetheless, you are going to be more active and essentially kind of speaking up for yourself. Or it is also possible at this time that there is just simply more movement in your partnerships. Like, let's go, let's get it going. Mars wants things to go fast. So whether this relationship, business, whatever it is, if you are getting into a new relationship right now, maybe just proceed with some caution, as there are kind of some bumps in the road this month. Or it could be that something in your relationships is in conflict with something in like your home and family sector right now as well, because Saturn in Pisces right now is moving through your home and family sector. So you might be really trying to build like a solid, secure foundation for yourself in home, or there's more responsibility or burden on you in home, or you're making some investment or commitment in your home life right now. Either way, there is some conflict between Mars and Saturn this month, or some kind of roadblock and delay, and it's happening in your partnership sector and in your home and family sector. So I do feel like, because you are a mutable sign, like, excuse me, like Gemini and Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces, y'all are going to be feeling this Mars and Saturn more than others. So again, these are the areas where there might be this sort of this action happening. I also want to point out that Mars is with Jupiter in your 7th house right now too. Like, there could be a success, there could be something good in partnership, or we are moving along somehow, but again, there's some kind of delay. And again, Mars can be aggravation, so there can certainly be some conflict with partners, and it might be necessary. It might be about you speaking up for your needs or something like that, but definitely just some areas to pay attention to for you. For Capricorn, Mars is going to be in your 6th house of work. So you might be seeking more, you might be really be kind of on the hunt for more work right now. This could be a time where like, I need to get a job, or if that's the case, Mars here can be helpful on just like kind of like getting some fire under your butt for doing that. Mars and Gemini. This could also be, frankly, some heated words or spicy communication with you and a coworker or you and a boss. Just something about your workplace. There's just more action and more heat. You might really be wanting like to kind of figure out because like 6th house is also like your work grind and kind of your schedule. So this could be just like, I'm really trying to figure out like the perfect kind of balance of like how I want to work and my workflow. Could be part of this 6th house energy. The other part of the 6th house is physical body health. So Mars moving through here could really be about like you like really working on health. Like, you're like, I'm adopting these routines, I am doing these exercise things. You could be more fired up for like physical, like just taking care of your physical body. And there is some success there with Jupiter there. Like, it's kind of making things happen in this part of your chart. Mars going into your sixth house can sometimes kind of stir up some health things. So just really kind of pay attention to your body and work with your body, because Mars can sometimes be inflammation. So it might be pointing to like there might be something going on with health in this case. But more often than not, it's kind of like health routines and that kind of thing. It is squaring off with Saturn in your third house. So you are really being called at this time with Saturn moving through your third house. So it's kind of a longer sort of Pisces journey to, have some authority in your communication, to maybe like restructure your mind in your daily environment. So there might be this tension energy between Mars and Saturn might be between your daily rituals, your routines, what your work looks like, what your health looks like, kind of getting these things in order. This can also be about your daily commute and your sort of daily trips and like kind of getting all of your errands and sort of things together. These are very kind of third house and sixth house topics. For Aquarius, Mars is moving through your fifth house. So there's definitely some action where your love life is concerned, or this is romance, love life. This could also be anything with children in your life as well. This could also be your creativity in creative projects. So there's more action here, right? So you are maybe wanting, frankly, fifth house is sex, and Mars is heat and passion. So you might be like, bro, I need to get laid, so that could really kind of stir up some energy in this part of your chart. And certainly this could like lead to some kind of passion or some kind of increase there with Jupiter there as well, because Jupiter, the planet of expansion, is in the same part as well. Like, so there is an increase of these things overall for you, of romance, of things with children, of creativity, of creative things, and really things that just bring you joy. But the other part of it is Mars can aggravate. So there can definitely be some spicy words between you and like a romantic interest, or a separation even between you and the lover, or there could be some frustration in creative things. There could also be a conflict surrounding a child. So it's either like an increase in energy, like there's just there's like let's go, or there's some aggravation and some conflict. There could be a conflict with these topics and finances for you, because Saturn is in your second house of money. So there could be like you could be really tightening the belt financially right now. There could be some restrictions on the fund that you want to have because of your wallet currently, or there could be some sort of financial demand, due to a child at this time, or there's something about love life and like money. So there is like this tension kind of energy between the two, but I do think Mars is going to at least like kind of make things a little spicier in this department for you. For Pisces, I do think that you're kind of really feeling this on a personal level, because you are kind of one of the main signs involved in this sort of Mars-Saturn stuff. So you have Mars and Gemini going into your fourth house of home and family. And that can definitely be like, on a really mundane level, it can be like, we're going to do some home renovation, like banging, loud things, shaking things up in your home environment, like putting action energy into the home. There could be movement as far as that is concerned. And you do have Jupiter there. So there is expansion in your home and family, or in your security, with Jupiter in Gemini right now. But Mars is sort of like making these things happen. There could be some conflict or like aggravation type things coming up with home and family stuff too. This could be with family. This could be surrounding your home or real estate, or with something with like parents or something. But there is some kind of maybe aggravation with Mars. And this Mars Saturn thing is happening really on a personal level for you as well. You're really being defined as a person at this moment. You're taking on more authority. You might feel like that weight of responsibility and burden, or just having to wait for things with Saturn in your sign, are just feeling like a little heavy right now. So this Mars Saturn thing is, maybe it's between you and family. Maybe there is something going on there. Maybe there's some sort of conflict there. But what else do I want to say about it? I'm not sure. I just do feel like a spicy sort of uptick in energy around home and family for you. Maybe some conflict there, but maybe there's just more energy there, heat energy. And there is some sort of, this dynamic energy with Saturn this month of like, maybe you might feel like you have to like wait for things. Like you might really just feel that Saturn energy of like working hard for things that are, like worth it in the end, really feeling like you are having to kind of define yourself right now, or kind of define what you want and kind of cut out things that aren't really serving you. So could be a couple things for you. So just really take a breath, take it easy when you can this month, and be patient as much as you can. So that is all for this episode, for this video. So I hope that was helpful for you. If you're paying attention, I'm wearing a different outfit because the technology I'm using to record these podcasts I got to change it. I'm not really a fan. It's freezing things. So we're going to try something else. And that's why this video ended up being a little bit late because things didn't want to cooperate with me. So thank you again. Make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. Leave a comment if this stuff is resonating with you, or tell me about what you're going through. If you're listening to the audio version, make sure you rate it 5 stars if you're enjoying it. So thanks again, and I will see you next time to talk about the new moon in Leo.